Hey everyone, my name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. If you are looking for undervalued investment opportunities, click subscribe. I talk a lot about commodities just because that's where the value is right now. I think that looking forward, we have very good opportunities in a couple of these sectors. On this one, I'm going to talk about uranium. I'm going to show you kind of the fundamental background of it, why I think it's a pretty good bet for a long-term commodity bull market hold. And I'll get into some of the companies and look at it from a long-term perspective. Some of these companies I don't really chart a ton. So I'll get you in, these companies in front of you. You can see the charts and I'll give you my opinion on it. And again, this is not financial advice. This is just my opinion. I've been in the markets for, I don't know, maybe 18 years, 15 to 18 years, something like that. I've done technical analysis very heavily. I'd say the past 12 years or so. And then when I was an early investor, I had to learn quite a bit. So I made a lot of mistakes, learned from my mistakes, and I've tightened everything up quite a bit. So let's jump in here, look at some fundamental analysis and some charts of uranium on a long-term perspective. Remember, these things work very good on a long term. The short term, you're still going to have the volatility. You're still going to be moving all around and getting jumbled and stuff. So we've got great fundamentals in uranium. We have excellent fundamentals in uranium. Gold to uranium ratio is a screaming buy. I'll show you that. We've got clean carbon-free electricity generation from uranium. We've got a commodities boom in the background. Inflation plus interest rates equals the money rotation into commodities. And uranium equities are anticipating this move, I think. And again, this is just financial education only. You guys are going to have to do your own due diligence and make whatever financial decisions yourself. So how many pounds of uranium can an ounce of gold buy? I usually show this. It's at over 60 to 1. So that's 60 pounds uranium to 1 ounce gold. That's what the pounds of uranium per 1 ounce of gold is on the left. This is the time on the x-axis. Whenever the ratio is below 10, you would say that uranium is expensive to gold. The average is 22. And here we are up in no man's land where uranium is cheap relative to gold, above 60. So we are at an anomaly for uranium. And the reason I'm going over all this, it's important to know where you are valuation-wise. What this means is that uranium can go and compress against gold, which means that the price of uranium could outperform gold quite substantially before it becomes overvalued. We are at such an undervalued area right now that it is unbelievable. It has never been this cheap in the history. So we've got updated model here. This is the market balance. So what you're looking at is the x-axis here is time. This is the y-axis, which is the supply-demand balance. Whenever you're below this zero mark, you are running a deficit. And when you're above it, you're running a surplus. We've got massive deficits coming starting now all the way till 2035 and probably beyond. That is what's projected for deficits. When a market is in deficit, it means that the market wants more uranium than what the market has to give. And that puts pressure on prices to increase to incentivize more uranium to be produced and mined. So if you look at this, this is the price. This is the spot price here, long-term price. They go up like this, and then it came back down. And you can see the direct relationship between the deficits, the price. The price is usually a little bit of a laggard in relationship to deficit. So you might have to deficit or two, then it starts to move. And then you can see that the surpluses are here. People figured out that they were going to have surpluses, and it declined. And then eventually we went back into a deficit that's coming. This will have an impact on price. Price is about $30 right now. It's about right in here. And they project it moving on up to at least 45. That's their kind of forecast. But I think it's going to go up a lot more than that to turn on mining companies. And just an FYI, here's the cost curves for, I think this is American, by American quota. And these are American companies. This is AICS incentive price. These are the cost curves for them to turn on their production, the minimum price. Doesn't mean that the price will just stop there. It just means that When $45 or more is hit, these guys can turn on production and they can maybe make some money. Keep in mind that we also have inflation, and inflation will increase the cost curves for some of these. So when people say $45, that might have been $45 4 years ago, but maybe now it's $50. Maybe this isn't priced in yet. We'll see. But this is the 2025 estimated cumulative uranium production. The Buy American quota of 25% is out here. And it would turn on all of these guys. And in order to turn these all on, you'd have to be at least $70 per pound. Probably going to be more like $70, $80, $90 a pound to turn them all on when you factor in the full-on cost and all the inflation that we're going to experience. This cost curve is going to continue to move up if we have inflation. People are going to get paid more money. It's going to cost more for steel and all these other inputs and oil, etc. So I don't know what their input costs were estimated at, but right now this is what the cost curve looks like for America. This is the uranium price. It's currently at $29.25. If you notice, it's below the cost of all of these. It's down here. So what that means is that the price has to rise. It's got to go up for these uranium miners to be turned on. And that's what we're anticipating and looking for, is for an increase in uranium price. Now here's Cameco. This is a big picture view. It broke its long-term downtrend to the upside. So that's looking pretty good. Now, some people are asking, well, can this pull back? It could. Very well could. But I don't have that crystal ball to tell you when that pullback is, how big that pullback is. That's for the market to decide. And if we're even going to have one at this moment. This is Cameco using a different chart. You can see that it broke this upper, or this, we'll call it this resistance line. It broke through it and kind of popped higher. So that's what this one looks like on a long-term perspective. So it looks very good. You have a very long-term downtrend break, and then you got the break of this kind of bowl-shaped pattern that broke to the upside. So it's just starting an uptrend move. So that looks good. Next Gen Energy, I think this one looks just fine. We'll see if this thing breaks to the downside. We're kind of in this pennant pattern here. We broke this downtrend. We're in an uptrend move, got lots of volume. And then we're seeing if this is going to break to the upside or the downside. That's what we're looking for. If it breaks to the downside, what does that mean? It means that we may have a little bit of a pullback before we move on higher. Does it mean that the bull market's over? No, it doesn't. It does not mean that at all. Here's Forces Metals. Downtrend break. We broke this other trend line and it's pulled up quite a bit, quite high. Will this pull back? Potentially, maybe not. I don't know. We're going to have to see what the market has. This is a long-term basis. It's pulled up quite a bit. It's quite a bit above its base pattern. So it very well could have some time to relax, to breathe, so to speak. It's used a lot of energy to move higher. Forum Energy Metals. I know I don't talk a lot about this one, but this is a big long-term trend line, and it's working its way up towards it and trying to break it at some point. Zooming in on Forum Energy Metals, this thing doesn't look too bad. We broke the trend line, downtrend line. We've got another resistance line that broke that's kind of flat, popped higher, and we're sitting above this trend line. So we are starting, I think, a new uptrend. This is looking fantastic. You can see the 200-day turning up. The 50-day is turned up already, and we've got volume picking this thing up. So that looks pretty good. Blue Sky Uranium, you can see that we're not really breaking any large patterns. We're not by it yet. It still has some room to move up. This is what it looks like zoomed in. This is the pattern going across here. We kind of came down, came up, broke this downtrend line, and we're kind of moving on sideways and higher. So it's stair-stepping up over time towards this resistance line. Pure Point Uranium, same thing. Got a little downtrend line. We're coming right up on it. Is this going to break through it, or are we going to hit our head and kind of bounce back? We got lots of volume, so that looks good. People are accumulating. It's one to watch. Bannerman Resources. Now, I know a lot of people I was watching this one. This is from a longer-term perspective view on it. We got the downtrend line. That broke, and it ran all the way up to this other resistance line up here. We paused, put in like this pennant formation, and I think today we might have broke through this nice pattern here. Let's see if we can stay above it and not come back down. If we can stay above it, we may see a little run. Or maybe it'll chill out here for a little while and go sideways and kind of rest, because it took a lot of energy to get above that resistance line. Here's plateau energy, downtrend, broke to the upside, pulled on back. I put this line here, basically retesting this bottom, so it's a double bottom, so to speak. Then we pulled on back up, and we're just kind of relaxing here. Volume is there, so maybe people are buying this. We've got another resistance line up here, so we're in the middle of all these resistance lines trying to carve out a bottom. Here's Fission Uranium, big long downtrend, broke the downtrend, coming on up, and then we broke this channel to the upside. So I think this one looks pretty good on a long-term perspective. So that looks all right. Fission 3.0, we've got the downtrend, we got another trend line here, broke to the upside, and it looks like it's staying above, just chilling out on top of this support line now. So I think this could potentially head higher with time, patience, everybody. UEX, this one tried to break through. I saw it went up, and then it got sold off real hard because there's a lot of sellers in here. So it's got to break through here, and it may take some time. Give it some time. This is what it looks like zoomed in. It's trying to break through it. We got to end up here and close above it for this. We got a lot of volume stepping in here, buying it. So that looks like it's trying to put in a bottoming process and start a new uptrend. GoVX Uranium still hanging out below its resistance line. Popped on higher, hit its head on it, came back, is resting a little bit, and maybe going to attempt another move at this line. This could be a lead in, cup, and handle pattern. We'll see what happens. I like GoVX quite a bit here. Global Atomic broke its resistance line here and just ran after it. It was like, see ya, I don't want to be around here. Here's Deep Yellow. You've seen this one before. Again, this is a long-term line. It's hitting its head on this 60-cent-ish area. It's got to break through it. And then I think we'll see a nice, good uptrend out of Deep Yellow. Appia Energy, it broke its, this is a much smaller pattern. Broke its resistance line, kind of was playing with it for a little while. Popped higher, that kind of was the moonshot up. And now we're moving on sideways. It's resting above it in this kind of flag pattern where I think we'll eventually move on higher. And even if we come down a little bit, that's okay. I'm not scared of this stuff, guys. I know a lot of you guys are scared of having a little bit of down days, but I just buy more. I accumulate. I'm looking at this as a long-term hold. So if you see this stuff, if you see it kind of break down, wait for it to gain its its footing again and turn back up. Like here, wait for it to kind of regain its footing and contract. This would have been a tough one to purchase and get this bottom here. But yeah, I just cost average in. That's what I do. Canalaska, big downtrend line here. We're still coming up to meet that trend line to break it. Tons of volumes buying this thing. We broke this downtrend line here. I think it looks good. Could this pull back? It very well could, or it could go higher and hit this trend line up here. The future will let us know. Here's Baseload. On a long-term perspective, it's a newer company. Big move higher, and then the small kind of pullbacks in here. I think this looks excellent. Down here, I'm not afraid. I didn't buy any. I own quite a bit in it, but I would not be afraid to add, cost average in here a little bit and see what it does. Here's Boss Energy. Looks like it's trying to go after this resistance line. There's a lot of resistance here. It just keeps hitting its head on it and hit its head and hit its head, hit its head. It's trying to break through. And if we break through here, it might look pretty good to go and move on higher. This is Azincourt. Big, long downtrend line. It looks like we're real close or right above it. It's either right under it or right above it. It's real hard to draw this line here. If you contact here, you contact here, you kind of chop the top off here. So it's real close around this area. So that one's looking okay. That's more of an exploration company, a pretty speculative play. Here's Days in Court looking at it from a different perspective, drawing the line in here and then drawing in the downtrend line here. We're right there trying to break out. So that one's kind of interesting to watch. Encore Energy broke its kind of long-term trend. Looks like it's moving to the upside, so that's looking pretty good from a long-term perspective. ALX Uranium, another very speculative play. I think they've got more than just uranium. They got like nickel, maybe some copper, if I can remember, and some gold and silver, I think. A whole bunch of metals. Broke this trend line, downtrend. We've got volume stepping in. We've got this other one here, and it looks like it's forming a little, I don't know if it's a flat kind of flag, pennant type formation. We got to see which way this thing breaks, either up or down. That's an interesting one. UU Energy Fuels coming on down. We got this resistance line popped up above it, back tested. I always buy back tests, and then we're moving on sideways or higher. Lots of volume stepping in, so that looks good. Denison Mines, a very similar setup. Resistance line came down, hit its head, came back, and then punched through, and we're kind of resting right here above it. Lots of buyers and sellers in this area is back here for many, many years. So it's going to have to work its way through this area. There's UEC, nice big downtrend line break to the upside. Moving on higher. Will this pull back? It very well could. Nice good volume down here on the break, so that looks pretty good. Here's URG, nice downtrend break. And we're just kind of moving back and forth, creating a pennant formation, it looks like. Maybe it's got a little bit longer before it moves on up. And here's Laramide. This is Laramide Resources, an American uranium company. Putting this guy across. Looks like we're right there trying to break through this. So this one looks kind of interesting as well to break through and see what it does. So from a long-term perspective, I think uranium looks pretty good. From a short-term perspective, I heard Chris. I have not watched Chris Vermillion. He's a analyst guy. I haven't watched the video clip yet. I just saw that people were talking about it in the comments section. I saw the clip of it that he's getting kind of bearish. But I'm not afraid. I'm most likely going to hold through this. I don't see why we would sell out. All the fundamentals look great. And what I do is I just hold on because he doesn't have a crystal ball. No one has a crystal ball. All these guys, they do not have crystal balls. That sounded kind of weird. They don't know the future. So by looking at these long-term charts, I think they look pretty good. They look pretty compelling. A lot of them have broken through them. I don't see any reason why these laggards, the ones that haven't broken through, wouldn't break through. It's just a matter of time. I don't have that exact timing, but you know what? No one does. No one does. If they do, I don't see why they're not multi-trillionaires and control the entire world because they can time absolutely everything. So I'm holding on. I'll accumulate if we get pullbacks, and that's just what I'll do. If you guys like this content, give me a thumbs up. I appreciate you guys listening. This is Finding Value.